Today's episode is brought to you by the Whole Life Decluttering Workshop, featuring a proprietary 6-step system, the Simple System, to help you declutter your life in a way that will last. Purchase this workshop on demand and receive the video training and dedicated workbook at positivelyproductive.com/resources. A positive approach is essential at any point in life. I doubt you're surprised to hear me say that, considering the title of the podcast and my business. But when you're dealing with dark times, this is when cultivating positive thinking will be a lifesaver. Instead of denying the darkness and the impact it has on us, the idea is to cultivate tools to navigate our way through it. You can't stop the darkness from surrounding you, but with these tools as your metaphoric flashlight, you can see a path forward. Now, let's talk about what it takes to find light in a dark world. You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zaratny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and I'm so grateful you've joined me today. We're addressing a topic that's especially close to my heart and feels particularly timely as well: how to find light when the world feels dark. Now, before we continue, I want to make one thing very clear. I'm not telling you that your goal is to look on the bright side, especially when you're hurting. Pain is real, and it's necessary to acknowledge it, feel it, and process it so you can heal from it. What we're aiming for instead is to ensure that darkness doesn't consume you, robbing you of your ability to recover and live fully. You've probably heard phrases like good vibes only and always look on the bright side. And if that second one made you think of Monty Python, you are my kind of people. The thing with these phrases, though, is that while they can be well-intentioned and look good on a graphic t-shirt or on an Instagram post all about perseverance, they're inherently problematic. That kind of perspective dismisses your feelings, attempts to negate your pain, and you'll likely end up worse off because of it. That isn't positivity. That's toxic positivity, and it can be incredibly harmful. This is not what we're about at the Positively Living Podcast, and it's definitely not what I had in mind when I launched Positively Productive Systems in 2016. I believe that living a trauma-informed and grief-informed life and living with respect for our struggles is essential. It's a process, and it allows for healing as the foundation for our growth. Do we want to seek out the light? Absolutely we do. But also, it's okay not to be okay. And you are on your own timeline. Before I continue, I want to mention that we have done a number of episodes in the podcast about trauma and positivity. You can search for these on the podcast page of the positivelyproductive.com website and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Some of the episodes you'll want to look for are Living a Trauma-Informed Life with Mallory Jackson and ones on toxic positivity and other harmful mindset approaches with Valerie Friedlander. Now, let's talk about what it takes to find light in a dark world. A positive approach is essential at any point in life. I doubt you're surprised to hear me say that, considering the title of the podcast and my business. But when you're dealing with dark times, this is when cultivating positive thinking will be a lifesaver. Instead of denying the darkness and the impact it has on us, the idea is to cultivate tools to navigate our way through it. You can't stop the darkness from surrounding you, but with these tools as your metaphoric flashlight, you can see a path forward. This concept is rooted in positive psychology. It's a brand of psychology that focuses on strengths, virtues, and optimal functioning. It's all about building a good life, not just fixing what's wrong. Positive psychology can help you cope with difficult times by focusing on your strengths and what's going right in your life, even amidst challenges. It teaches skills like hope and optimism, which can boost resilience and help you navigate tough situations. By focusing on solutions and cultivating positive emotions, positive psychology helps you find meaning and purpose, even in the face of adversity. And if any of that sounds familiar, it's because positive psychology is what my coaching practice is rooted in. I want to figure out what you can do and go from there. Did you notice how I said that positive psychology teaches skills like hope and optimism? While those do seem a bit like a you're born with it or you're not kind of thing, they can actually be learned. And that is fantastic news for all of us. Martin Seligman, known as the father of positive psychology, encourages us that learned optimism is real because it's about how we interpret the world. And according to this premise, it's not a fixed trait nor part of our disposition. Instead, it can be seen as more of a strategy, an outlook we can learn to cultivate when we start by challenging our automatic negative thoughts. And along those lines, hope is also considered a skill that can be learned and developed through practice, meaning it's not just a passive emotion that we either have or don't have, but it's an active mindset that can be cultivated over time. It involves setting goals, identifying pathways to achieve them, and maintaining a positive outlook even in challenging situations. Exactly what we need when times are dark. As you can imagine, the combination of these two is powerful. When we cultivate hope and optimism, we can improve both our mental and physical health, build resilience, cope with challenges better, and improve our quality of life. And some studies suggest even our quantity of life. And that makes sense. When you improve your health, you may be able to improve how long you live. So, how do we learn these skills or strengthen what we already have? You'll be pleased to know we've talked about these very things on the podcast since it began. Because the principles of positively living have positive psychology as its foundation, we've discussed practices that will help you feel less stressed, become more resilient, and build your optimism muscles. But here are 6 things you can consider doing today if you haven't already. 1. Gratitude. Did you guess that would be one of them? I thought you might, and that's why I started with it. We've talked about gratitude so much, and I'm not going to stop anytime soon. There is a dedicated playlist on the podcast page, and you can find a gratitude bundle on the resources page of the positivelyproductive.com website. I've been coaching gratitude for almost as long as I've been in business, and one of the most profound discoveries for me is the idea that you can be grateful and devastated at the same time. When I first learned that, it opened my mind to what a gratitude practice could really look like. Not the kind that just always be grateful, not that toxic positivity kind, but the real kind where I could be practicing gratitude even when I'm suffering. So I think it's a wonderful place to start when you're trying to find light in the dark. It is true that even in the darkest times, there is always something to be grateful for. And the more we find to be grateful, the more we find to be grateful. We build a muscle and we're able to find things even easier the more we practice it. And I know this can be tricky, but even the tiniest spark of gratitude can and will build into a beautiful, effective habit. The second thing you can do is positivity and kindness. And what I mean by this is sharing it with others. In so many cases, we talk about focusing inward to make choices. But when it comes to building a positive mindset, sharing with others who are positive or need positivity from you can help your perspective. Plus, being kind to others and helping others can boost your mood in a big way. Just like negativity, positivity is contagious. So you get to choose which one you want to catch. There are a couple of episodes that come to mind that you may want to listen to for inspiration. One was just after the pandemic. Jake Doherty joined me to talk about how you can help yourself by helping others. And a couple years ago, Lindsay Taylor spoke about managing grief by giving back. Now, that one does have a trigger warning, so please check that first, but her story is profound, and I'll link to both of those in the show notes. The third thing that you can do, self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Oh, it sounds so simple, but I know sometimes it can be really difficult. You get frustrated. It's important to acknowledge your pain and treat yourself with the same compassion you would offer a friend. That's a great way to check on your self-compassion. When you are hearing yourself talk, is that how you would talk to a friend? Talk to someone you loved? If it is, you're on the right track, and if it isn't, you may want to check yourself. Acknowledge that things are hard and that you're struggling, and be gentle and patient with yourself, and give yourself the space that you need to find the solutions. Compassion is essential not only for our resilience, but our productivity. If you search the word compassion on the podcast page, you will see how many episodes come up that touch upon the subject. It's that important. The fourth thing you can do, and you may have guessed this already, self-care. Now, I don't want to be flippant about this, but finding light in the dark is significantly easier when you've had a snack and a nap. Self-care is absolutely necessary for our well-being. It affects our mental and physical well-being. It helps us focus better. It boosts our energy, which directly relates to our resilience and our productivity. And it reminds us that we are worthy of care. It seems to be one of the easiest habits to drop off our list. Yet I maintain it's the one we need to prioritize daily. And yes, it's important enough that it has its own playlist on the podcast page. Though I think you might especially appreciate episode 146, which is a self-care roundup episode with a quick summary of 10 self-care episodes. So if you are tight on time, you are going to love that one. The fifth thing you can do is journaling. Now, journaling is an important practice for capturing many of these other steps and for self-coaching as you work through the negative thoughts that naturally follow you. This is how we're wired. It's completely normal, but we need to be able to compensate for it with positivity training, and journaling is going to help. You can journal with a notepad. You can use a dedicated notebook like a bullet journal. I like the Leuchtturm 1917. That one is on my favorites list for writing and journaling on my resources page if you're curious. You can also use something like GoodNotes and even capture your thoughts by voice on your phone. However you do it, the key here is to track what you're thinking and feeling so that you can look back and review. You can make connections and you can encourage yourself and make changes where needed. The last one on the list for today, number 6, is affirmations. Now, affirmations may seem a bit woo-woo, and I've got all kinds of memories of things like if you've ever watched really old school classic SNL and Stuart Smalley. But here's the thing. They're a form of self-talk that can be very powerful, especially when you're practicing positivity. Your mind believes what you say. And remember how I said we are programmed toward negativity? We have to counteract that some way, and affirmations can help us do that. It helps you reframe and reprogram, basically. Give yourself a set of phrases to repeat, and remember, repetition helps us learn, and they will counteract those negative thoughts. The key to making them work, though, is to make them realistic. For example, instead of everything is working out for me, which if you hear that, your mind is probably going to be like, yeah, right. You could say instead, I discover solutions readily, or I have many resources and many people on my side. That can also be great for gratitude as well, by the way. It's not always that we have to find the best and the brightest thing to practice it. It's about finding those small things like today was hell, but I survived and I have people who love me who looked out for me. I had that a lot during my caregiving days. Well, the same is true for affirmations. Say things that make sense to you, that are encouraging to you. Go slowly, go at a pace that works for you, and keep working on sort of that reprogramming of your mind by those encouraging phrases. And have fun with it too. You can write those on your whiteboard. You can create a little whiteboard in a frame that you have on your desk and write different affirmations. You can put it on your screen, just like you do with vision boards and things like that. You want to have it around so that you're constantly reminding yourself of these positive ideas. There are 6 things to choose from. I would say even pick 1 or 2 to start and see where it gets you. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today because I think this was an especially important episode. And with each episode, I ask that if you found it helpful, please share it with a friend or on your social media. Let's encourage each other and keep sharing what works. Remember, finding light in the dark doesn't mean that you're ignoring the darkness. It's about acknowledging it and then, when you're ready, choosing to move forward. It's about finding hope in the midst of hardship and strength in the face of adversity. And you can do that by practicing the things that we talked about today and that we talk about regularly on the podcast. And one last thing I want you to remember, you're not alone on this journey. We're in this together, and together we can find light. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback or questions, you can find me through the Connect page of the positivelyproductive.com website. And if you're looking for any of the resources mentioned here, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.